I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask next time?
It's too big.
Back and to the left, 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 back and to the left.
Hello, everyone. This is Half a God's Face podcast. It's been a minute. Kind of busy October, and there's a lot of films coming out, so we're going to touch on a lot of stuff today. We were thinking about doing an anemone podcast, but the movie wasn't very good, so we just didn't do it. And Smashing Machine, I saw the Smashing Machine. It was okay. I didn't really feel like making Austin see that. So, how's it going, Austin? Allah Akbar.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's going good. Work's been crazy, but
Yeah.
Mastermind was pretty freaking
Oh yeah.
enjoyable. So
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of the perfect move. I mean, I was really looking forward to it, and then as I was watching it in the theater, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then I just absolutely loved the ending, and I was like, wow, this actually is going to be a great movie to do the podcast about, because it's there's a great discussion to be had. There's a lot of angles to it, I would say, that make it like a really fascinating film. And I root for Kelly Reichardt. I've seen I think I've seen some of her other films. I forget which ones, but I think I've seen at least one or two of her movies, but this one felt like the best of her films I've seen so far, Um but yeah, we can
yeah, I saw it at it's called The Nightlight. It's in Akron, small indie theater. Actually, there's a YouTuber named Chris Stuckman that started out as like a critic that made a movie. Then he kind of promotes that place, so it's kind of got like a cult following in Northeast Ohio. But
oh wow.
screenings are pretty small, but I don't know. It was kind of chill for the most part. There's only like 4 people in my screening, and
Yeah.
I kind of just like went up to like the reclining chairs, the big ones, because I mean, it didn't really matter where I sat. And I don't know, the sound wasn't really that great, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I was kind of just thinking of the score with the acoustics. The
Yeah, so do
jazzy
you want
score was really
to
cool.
just real quick, do you want to talk about the Mastermind first, or do you want, because I also just saw so much stuff at Chicago Film Festival that I can break down. So do you want to just talk about the Mastermind first, or do you want to hear about Chicago Film Fest first?
Yeah, no, let's hear about Chicago Film Fest. That sounds cool.
Okay, yeah, so just to um fill us in, basically all the stuff. So it's kind of cool that we did our con preview show. I feel like that show has really aged very well, just because we touched on all the movies that we're now able to see, and now they're all getting released, and like I like the Mastermind played at Chicago Film Festival, and Kelly Reichardt was here in person. I didn't get a ticket because I was seeing something else, I think. But a lot of the films that I've been looking forward to this year, like the Lav Diaz Magellan, I was able to see and be gone. But so yeah, everything, and then the Panahi, the film that won the Palme d'Or, played at Chicago Film Festival. So basically, all the movies everyone wants to see played there. Begonia, which we're going to do a Begonia episode also. But it was pretty amazing. I saw 5 films. The first thing I saw was this movie called My Father and Gaddafi, which was a documentary about this woman's father being disappeared by Gaddafi.
Oh my god!
and she was there in person with her family afterwards, and it was pretty incredible doc. I don't know if it's going to get distribution, but I kind of when I go to Chicago Film Festival, I usually prioritize movies that I'm not really sure are going to open anywhere, just because it's like, okay, this is your only time to see it. Like, I didn't really even try to see some of the stuff that I knew was going to open right after, like the Mastermind. It's like there's no point seeing it at Chicago Film Festival when it was going to open like a week later, you know.
Yeah, that makes
So, and
sense.
then the tickets are way more expensive. That's the other thing that's a little bit irritating, is that they charge like $25 for tickets. Like, I literally, so the Gaddafi film, that's like that's worth every penny, especially
Is
with the
it like per
filmmakers.
screening?
Yeah, it's $25 every screening. And
Ew.
it's just like, yeah. And then I saw the new Laszlo Nemes movie, which was just a bag of trash. Was kind of just like a coming of age movie that just sucked ass. Like, I don't know.
What was that one called?
Orphan, I think.
Oh.
Which is unfortunate because I loved Son of Saul. Son of Saul is an incredible masterpiece, very disturbing movie. And then Sunset, he made this movie about like the lead up to World War One, and this female lead character really felt like a novel, like a great epic novel. And then he returns with Orphan, and just terrible. Like, it was just, I mean, the cinematography was amazing, and I mean, technically, you can't really complain about Laszlo Nemes, but it feels like he's just poorly suited to make a movie without dramatic tension, is kind of my critique. And I just hate coming of age movies. They're just very boring. Like, when it's like a young, you know, it's like a kid like battling with a stepfather, I just kind of roll my eyes and zone out, you know. And nothing very interesting. And I was such an idiot too. I went when there was just massive protests, like the No Kings protests were happening. So there was just like infinite,
Oh.
there was like
So
infinite people on the train. I like, it was impossible to get downtown. I saw a terrible movie and just was like, ah, Jesus.
October 18th.
Yeah, and then tried to get back on the train to go home, and it was just a complete clusterfuck nightmare getting back. And yeah, it was not really worth it. I really wish I didn't go to that. And then, in terms of the $25 thing, I was even more annoyed when I got a ticket, because the bill told me to go see this Georgian movie called Dry Leaf. I was like annoyed because I was like, oh my God, I really have to pay $25 to see it. It was literally a 3-hour movie shot on an old phone.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but I was like a little bit irritated before I saw the movie. I was just kind of like messaging the bill, just kind of roasting him, because I'm like, yeah, you have to shit on Honora, you have to hate Honora, hate The Brutalist, but the only movie you say is good is a 3-hour movie shot on a phone. All right, bro. But no, he was right though. To give him credit, I gotta say that was one of the most radical, like almost no plot whatsoever, stunning imagery movies I've ever seen. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see it, but then I followed up and watched another one of this guy's films that was a lot more accessible from a couple years ago, that was a hit in the art house world, called What Do We See When We Look at the Sky? Which
Oh.
is basically a movie about soccer for the most part. There's just a very big soccer element, and the main character is obsessed with Messi, and in the movie there's the World Cup is happening. So it's a pretty great sports movie, but it is kind of like slow cinema. But yeah, Dry Leaf was like unwatchable. I mean, it was unwatchable in the sense of it was so slow. It's basically the movie starts and you're like, what is this exactly? And then the resolution is so shitty. It's like 140 like
Oh, wow.
pixels. It's crazy. But he captures the lighting and like leaves and like the sun. It's just gorgeous. Like, it's an overwhelmingly beautiful film. And the fact that there's no plot, it kind of becomes like this dream type of feeling. So it's basically like like there's this scene early in the movie where these characters are talking, and you're like, okay, what's this movie gonna be? This is 3 hours. And they're like, oh yeah, my daughter, she like left and I don't know where she went. I think she's taking photos of soccer fields. So this father starts, it's basically like a experimental road trip movie where he's just traveling along the countryside of Georgia, which, you know, is a former satellite of the Soviet Union. So it's kind of, these are kind of like you know, I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to offend Georgians. I know that they're their own ethnicity, I would assume, but yeah, they kind of have like a Russian like vibe. Not to be rude, but um, so just to give you a picture, and so he's literally going from soccer field to soccer field, and they're all like abandoned soccer fields. Like it'll just be like two goalposts just sitting in this empty field,
Mm.
and the thing that's even more hilarious about how unwatchable the movie is that he has like a like an imaginary friend talking to him. So he'll be in his car and he's like, "Yeah, I wonder where she went." And then just a voice will materialize out of nowhere like, "Yeah, I don't know where she went. Let's keep looking," or something. So he's like, and then he'll go to a soccer field and sometimes he's talking to real people, but a lot of times he'll be talking to people that aren't even there. He's like, "Hey, do you guys usually play soccer here?" And he's like just talking to no one, and then a voice will come out. It'll be like a kid's voice, be like, "Oh no, we usually don't play here. We play at another field." It's like you're like, "What is going on?" So I'm it is impossible to do justice to how deranged and bizarre this movie is. But if you really love cinema for the art of cinema, it's worth experiencing. It's so slow. It's so slow. But I would say about halfway through or 2 hours in, I really was very inspired by it because it just takes cinema into like an artistic place. It didn't, it's cinema for or expression, cinema for kind of the deconstruction of representation. There's a part in the movie when he starts doing like Ken Burns effects too. So he starts like zooming in on part of the frame to the degree that it just becomes abstracted like pixels.
Mm.
And you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God. So it's really experimental. And the ending is pretty amazing. And the fact that it's so little plot and it has such a kind of anticlimactic ending, because it's in itself, there's just no dramatic tension. It's like, he's like looking for his daughter and there's no stakes. Like it's not like so the movie is almost kind of about this guy who might actually be kind of, I almost interpreted it as far as this main character is kind of just like out of his mind, because he's talking to people that aren't there and he's going to search for his daughter who seems to be like on an actual like work like trip. So it's like, why do you need to find her? You know what I mean? So again, I almost am frustrated talking about this film just because it's like impossible to pitch someone on it. It's impossible to pitch someone on it unless um someone is really interested in how the degradation of film technique or using worse cameras can kind of bring out like what the form of filmmaking really is, which I was really inspired by, and I thought it was honestly a masterpiece. I mean, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was really inspiring. But yeah, if anyone's interested in that director, Koberidze, What Do We See When We Look at the Sky is definitely very accessible, but also a total masterpiece. I'm pretty sure everyone who saw that movie loved it when it came out in 2021. Um, but yeah, other than that, though, getting to the heat of the festival, I ended up seeing the new Be Gone film and then the new Lav Diaz film. I actually saw it with Joe too, which was pretty cool. But yeah, Lav Diaz film is brutal and incredible. But Resurrection, oh my God, the new Be Gone film, that is one of the most visually stunning films ever made. It is absolutely unbelievable. Holy shit! Have you heard about that movie at all?
I only really remember it. I think didn't we bring it up in the can discussion?
Yeah, yeah. Because Be Gone is just like he's like so he used to get compared to Tarkovsky with Kali Blues and Long Journey to the End of the Night or Long Day's Journey to Night, whatever the title is. And he always so his signature in those two films is that both those films end with an hour long tracking shot. So Collie Blues is like this kind of mysterious, like artistic film set in like this remote Chinese village, and it plays with memory. And there are these weird time jumps where you're not totally sure how much time has passed in the plot of the film. And then there's just this epic hour-long tracking shot where the camera's like on like motorcycles and traveling around this entire like village, and you're like, oh my god. It's just, and there's all this poetry that Begon writes that is set in the voiceover. So yeah, Collie Blues was kind of like an instant classic. And then he did Long Day's Journey into Night, which features the movie ends with an hour-long tracking shot, and it's in 3D.
What?
And you don't need 3D glasses to appreciate the movie. I would tell everyone to watch that immediately. That was already one of the best films of the 21st century. But yeah, just the technical skill. So 2018, Long Day's Journey into Night. Again, one of the most technically spectacular movies I've ever seen in my entire life. So he's basically, to give you an idea how great Begun is, he's basically 2 for 2, and he's a young man. I mean, he might be like 30 at this point. He's really young, and so I was hype about this movie, but I didn't know what to expect because the early critical reactions to Resurrection was kind of like, oh, I guess he's 36 now, but he was young when Collie Blues came out in 2015. But yeah, so he's basically never missed. It's kind of setting the stage for me going into Resurrection, and I went into it, and it's basically like a science fiction film. It's set in this world where no one dreams, and the people that dream are called deliriants, and they're like these. It's like this guy who's like a deliriant, and he's like this decaying, kind of mummified zombie like creature. And then this woman is kind of, I believe she's having him go through these dreams so that she can like end his like life. I don't know. It's so the plot is kind of crazy where you're like, wait, what is the plot of this movie? And then the characters, you have a hard time following the characters. But so the movie starts, and like the plot of the movie is that each of these dreams that you see from the deliriant are like in a different period in history. So it kind of goes through film history. So the first dream sequence of the movie, my jaw is on the floor. It's a silent film sequence that is like mind melting, unfucking believable filmmaking, incredible score. I was like, holy shit, how does this movie start like this? It's like this deliriant character that she opens up his back and like puts in like a film she puts film into his back, and it like projects on the wall. It's like it almost feels like Jodorowsky. It almost feels like Jodorowsky and Raul Ruiz, and but it's still Begun. It's just like he's so talented that you're just, even though it's like kind of an experimental movie with a very vague plot, you're just so wrapped up in how spectacular the filmmaking is. And then it just goes from dream sequence to dream sequence. So there's like 4 or 5 different chapters in the film. So there's like a noir part, and then there's a part where there's a character doing card tricks and like scamming people out of money. And then just like his other movies, the movie ends with a spectacular like epic tracking shot that is like, it's set on not to give too many spoilers, but it's essentially the night of 1999, like New Year's Eve. So it's like the last night of the century, and it's like this man and this woman and this love story. But holy shit, what an ending. Honestly, one of the best endings I've ever seen in my life. Begon, he is one of the greatest filmmakers alive. I cannot recommend Resurrection high enough. I mean, that was honestly, I walked out of that movie being like, that was damn near one of the best films I've ever seen. I mean, it is unbelievable. I can't even do justice to it. Similar to Dry Leaf, because Dry Leaf is amazing because it's so anti-plot and it's inspiring. Resurrection is like, it takes a very simple idea of the plot, and then you just completely lose track of like watching it for plot because the imagery and the music is so incredible. Um, but yeah, no, we'll see if that opens anywhere. I think it actually got like I think like I don't know what the Gotham Awards are, but it got a Best International
Oh,
feature
hell yeah.
nomination and I think that's like fairly mainstream, the Gotham
Yeah,
Awards.
I would say relatively so.
So I'm hoping it gets like a real push and it gets like Oscar consideration because it is special. Like Resurrection is one of those movies. Like I just can't imagine someone seeing that and I mean it's kind of long. It's like 2 hours 30 minutes, and I think the main criticism someone could have of it is that the beginning and the ending of the movie are like some of the greatest sequences in film history. I mean the filmmaking is just unbelievable. Like what he does with light and shadow and the whole silent film sequence. It's like, oh my god, like he's very aware of the language of filmmaking. And then there's a part in the noir sequence which is kind of like an homage to The Lady from Shanghai, the Orson Welles film, where it has the iconic sequence. I don't even know if I've seen The Lady from Shanghai, but that features that sequence where it's like a guy trying to shoot someone and it's like in a hall of mirrors,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
you shoot one of the mirrors and it's the wrong, it's not the person, it's just a mirror. So he does that. So there's a lot of that in the movie, like some kind of like references throughout film history. But the filmmaking is so spectacular. I think it actually is going to get well liked. But yeah, just to wrap it up on my little breakdown of Chicago Film Festival. Yeah, then I saw Magellan, and I go back and forth. I think Resurrection and Magellan are definitely the two best films of the year for me. They are unbelievable. Magellan is a lot more straightforward than Resurrection. It's not really experimental. It's Lav Diaz, who I think is arguably one of the all-time great filmmakers. Um, just this brutal film, kind of about colonialism, and you really see it's like being in a time machine. Like watching So the movie Magellan, it kind of starts with these Native American, sorry, not Native American, these tribal, like Filipino people, uh, who are all naked too, which is kind of striking. When the movie starts, you're like, oh my god, I'm all these native people are naked, and they're screaming that the white man is about to, like, a prophecy is being fulfilled because a white man has landed on their shore. And then it cuts to Magellan, who's you see this beach and all these people are just dead on this beach, and it's like a shipwreck or something, and Magellan is just lying there half dead. And you're like, oh my god, this is how the movie starts. Magellan's just half dead on a beach, and someone comes up to him and he's like, wake up or something. And so the movie starts and you go, okay. And you're kind of following Magellan, who's a very Christian kind of guy. And a lot of the movie is very much about that. It's about how Magellan and these early voyages were imposing Christianity on the native people. And a lot of that would be like colonialism. So part of that is they would clothe everyone. So they make them worship Christ, and they try to burn all their, like, all their idols and stuff, and then they like make them wear clothes. So you kind of see the progression into like Western history. But yeah, then there's a whole sequence with like his wife, and I think Lav is going to do another movie, but just about the wife, and it's going to be like he said, it's going to be 8 hours long.
Let's go.
And this one is really short for Lav Diaz. It's like 2 hours 45 minutes, but
Saw that. Yeah, I went, huh.
no, it was amazing. Incredible cinematography. Same cinematographer as Pacifiction, Arthur Tort, who's like a great collaborator of Albert Serra. He's done the cinematography for a bunch of Albert Serra movies. So the cinematography for Magellan is unbelievable. So there's a lot of setup of seeing Magellan, like kind of his earlier years, and then he goes to Portugal. I think he goes to Spain and he's trying to get money to do this trip, and I think he gets money from the Portuguese. So you see his wife briefly. It's kind of a brief sequence where you see her and you see her pregnant, and then he leaves her, and then she kind of revisits him like in dreams throughout the movie, because they just never see each other again, and he just leaves. And uh but no, the really spectacular sequence in Magellan is when you're on the boat, because he's just on this boat for like months and months and months, and there's like mutinies, and it's like two characters like are caught having gay sex on the boat, and he he has he has them like executed in front of the
Oh,
whole crew. Yeah, it's like so brutal. You're like, holy shit. I don't I don't mean to laugh, but it's like shocking, you know?
is
Like
it
where you're
is it not really like pulling any punches then?
yeah, exactly. The movie is just incredibly violent and incredibly like, yep, this is what it was like. And there's no like battle sequences. What happens is you always arrive as a viewer at a battle after it's happened. So you
Mm,
always like see so when he's about to have this guy's head cut off for having gay sex on this boat, it like cuts away when they're gonna cut his head off. But there's a lot of imagery of like bodies and blood and all that kind of stuff. But no, it was oh my god! And there was another scene I loved where again a very dark scene, but again truthful to history. Where this I think it's a colonel named like Albuquerque, who I believe was kind of Magellan like served under him at first, and he's given this rant. He's going on this rant to like all his soldiers where he's saying, we have to stop Islam from spreading. We have to destroy their trade routes. And like it's very openly a movie about the imperial powers kind of fighting each other, you know? And there's all these scenes of people, you know, chanting. There's a lot of scenes of the native population chanting to their gods. And at the same time, you see sequences where Magellan is chanting or saying stuff for Christianity. So it's very much a movie about how in past ages religion was like it was something that was shouted, you know, people would shout their belief like nothing was subtle about it, right? Everything was like very I don't want to say straightforward, but if you know this history kind of comes out of this world of people imposing their will on each other is definitely the vibe you get. And no spoilers for the ending, but yeah, I'm not going to go into. Obviously, it's a historical figure, so anyone can Google what happened to Magellan. I didn't know his like story that well.
he pulls a Tarantino and rewrites the.
No, no, he actually he was definitely faithful to what happened, but I didn't know going in, so the ending was shocking. I was like, oh my god.
Mm,
Uh, but yeah, it's. I almost was left speechless by it because with Resurrection, it was so mind melting and inspiring, and the filmmaking skill was incredible. I was like floating after I saw the movie. I was like, that was one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and I had that feeling for Lav Diaz. It's a different kind of story with Diaz because he's had such an epic career. It's hard to pick what is his best movie, you know? So I didn't walk out of Magellan thinking that's like the best Lav Diaz. I thought to myself, okay, this is going to be his most seen movie because it's starring Gabriel Garcia Bernal, who gives an amazing performance, by the way. And again, he's kind of a complicated figure because I think Diaz has respect for him as an explorer. He has a reverence for his achievement, and it is an achievement. I mean, you know, Magellan is definitely a movie that participates in the great man theory of history in the sense that there are these figures that come across in history and they're of a different era. They're not politically correct. They don't do things the way that we would hope like in our like if you're sitting in your life and you're just reading books on ancient history or on history from like 100 years ago or something, very often you're going to go, "Oh my god, that's brutal," you know? It's just a different time. But at the same time, Diaz has such a contempt for colonialism. So but I think the film didn't really it wasn't heavy-handed. It didn't really make it a point to say that Magellan was like a monster. I think Diaz's position on Magellan was that he wasn't as bad as like, you know, a Columbus is kind of the vibe I get. Like Magellan was imposing Christianity on the local people, but it's not like you don't see him like butchering people, if that makes sense. He's not just
mm,
openly doing genocide, but he will enforce imposing Christianity, and then the local populace rebels against that. So there are battles and stuff that happen kind of off screen, but he's not like a genocidal maniac. But there are sequences where people confront him, where people say, "Is this okay to do this? To like, you know, violently impose Christianity on people that don't want it?" And he's like, "Fuck you!" Like, and he gets into arguments with people. But no, fascinating film. I think it was very honest, historically accurate. But then again, he even said there is some pushback because there's a part in the movie where there's this character called like Locky or something, or I forget the name, or like I'm butchering this, but I think some historians say that because in the movie they act like there's this like fictional character that Magellan is afraid of, that he wants to go to war against, who's like kind of like a religious leader for the native population. And in the movie they're like, oh, this is a fake guy that the natives lied about and he doesn't actually exist. But Lav Diaz said apparently that historians are like mad at him because like historians say that this is a real person, and in his movie he like acted like it was a fictional like person. So that was an interesting thing that I need to figure out. But no, I definitely need to see the movie again. I feel like all these movies I brought up will definitely warrant a bunch of viewings. I mean, specifically Resurrection and Magellan and even Dry Leaf. But no, I mean, yeah, we can get to the Mastermind here. To wrap up kind of my recap. No, I mean, Chicago Film Festival, they do a great job. They show a lot of great stuff. And this is some of the best programming I've seen at the festival in years. So great job. I had a pretty amazing experience. I'll probably always go as long as I live. But yeah, conclusion is just, yeah, pretty much I basically saw all my favorite movies of the year in like a month span. Um yeah, those are basic. I mean, Resurrection and Magellan. When we do our episode on the best movies of 2025, those are probably going to be the top two for me. It's going to be hard to replace those, you know.
Eh?
But yeah, no, we can move on to the Mastermind. We can do a Mastermind reaction, which is also um I put it on my list for top films of 2025. I don't know if it's better than a lot of other films I saw this year that I loved, but it's definitely in the conversation, I would say. I really loved it.
Oh yeah, I loved it too. Um, Probably, I mean, obviously we'll get to it later, but the more it went on, I appreciated it more.
Right.
I mean, it kind of got to a point later that was a little bit different, but I thought I haven't seen any Kelly Reichardt, so I kind of actually thought that the movie was just going to be about the heist itself,
Right.
and it's kind of it's um I don't know, I've heard people say like art house, art heist movie is kind of like a play on words, but it's not really what it's about. But
Yeah, it's kind of like a casual heist movie.
yeah, and I don't know, Josh O'Connor's really good in it. I feel like what he's doing is like an actor is particularly difficult to be really kind of just quiet but
Right.
interesting, you know?
Yeah, going to see the what makes this movie such a good movie to talk about is I feel like it's like a classic character study movie where figuring out the motivations of the main character is actually really fascinating because he seems like he just doesn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah, no, he's there's things around him that are like pulling in different directions and he's just not interested in it.
Yeah, so
He
essentially
also he doesn't really work, right?
yeah,
Either.
he's like between jobs or something. So it seems
And
like he's
he's
like
kind of a nepo baby, you can say, I think.
yeah, there's a little bit of that. No, because so the movie kind of starts, and I think he's at like this art museum, right? And you're kind of like, okay, he's at an art museum, and then he just like opens up a case and like steals a little like figurine, and you're just like, what the fuck? And like, I think he sees that like the security is like asleep at this art museum.
Yeah, and the kids are there, which
Yeah.
is really weird to yeah, that's kind of when you don't know what's going on, the movie starts right away and he's robbing an art museum and his children and his wife, like the whole family's with him. It's a really like
Yeah.
weird dynamic to start sinking into.
It's funny too, casting Alana Haim in a role where she like doesn't really talk.
Oh yeah, I was listening to like a review about it and someone said it's kind of like it's almost like they said like Anna Paquin in The Irishman kind of vibe.
Yeah, a little bit. That's actually a good
where
comparison.
she does a lot more just like being in the scene, just like as a body than actually like delivering dialogue.
Yeah, she doesn't really talk very much in the movie, and there's a lot of scenes where they're
He
all
begs her to talk like throughout the movie. He's like, just say
yeah,
something.
there's a bunch of scenes where they're just very like they're very quiet among each other. Like they'll be at dinner or in the car or like walking, and you kind of just have this feeling when you're watching the movie where you're like, wait, why are they together? Why do they have a family? Is this like the downswing of their relationship? Like the
Hmm.
Josh O'Connor character and this like family, like, or did they have more moments where there was more energy in the relationship, or is this how it always has been? But no, I think this movie is so I think I had seen a couple of her other films, and Kelly Reichardt definitely kind of flirts with a slow cinema kind of approach at times. She's very like understated, which I love. I love that stylistically. I just am very drawn to that. And this movie, it kind of has this like quiet mentality early on, and then it's like, okay, he starts getting together with a group of his boys, and he's like, oh, this they're asking for us to steal these paintings. Like, let's steal this stuff. And then you're like, oh my god, I guess we're gonna watch like a a robbery happen. But then even the robbery scene itself is kind of anticlimactic. It's a little bit too easy. For
Yeah,
them.
and he's well, it goes kind of wrong, but it still works in terms of like he was one guy bails, so he actually has to be the driver.
Right.
Then these
Yeah, that's
two
when
girls are
stuff
like
starts going haywire.
studying art or something, and they go into like the room where they're stealing it, and the guy's just like, well, I guess I have to point a gun at this like teenage girl now, and she seems like not, I don't want to say like she's not scared, but she's like, oh, I'm not gonna say anything, it's cool.
Yeah, there's something about like it, like when you're seeing this robbery scene, it just doesn't feel like real. Like there doesn't feel like there's like any real danger, even though they have like a gun and there's like a police. I think so. Josh O'Connor is parked in his car, and then a police car pulls next to him and is just
Oh
eating their
yeah,
lunch. And so you're kind of, as a viewer, you're kind of nervous about all this, but you're also kind of like there's just a
they were probably gonna be able to get it like with no problem in this
yeah, there's a
universe.
feeling like no one gives a shit. Like it feels like, well, first of all, I think one of my questions is, so is like the paintings themselves, this has to be like a fictional painter, right? I mean, I wonder who did those paintings, because part of me was wondering like how much would those even be worth, Because it doesn't really seem, it's not like, that's what's kind of funny about the movie is it's not like he's stealing from like the Art Institute of Chicago or like
Rembrandt or something.
yeah, it's not like he's stealing like a $20 million thing, but it's like kind of a little art gallery. So in your mind, you're kind of in my mind, and I actually had volunteered for an art gallery a couple years ago, and even at that level, like of smaller scale stuff, the paintings are pretty expensive. I mean,
Hmm.
people are buying this stuff for tens of thousands of dollars. So I was looking at those paintings, and I was like, in my brain with a little bit of experience in like the art world, I was wondering how much, because then he asked his mom for like $5,000, I think, or so he's like paying the guys to help steal it by asking his mom for money.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I guess the context is also the art looks kind of modern and for being set in, I believe it's 1970, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 70 or something like that, because the Vietnam War is going on as one of the big background
Yeah.
aspects of this movie. But no, I would, because I was looking at the paintings that he wanted to steal, and I was just wondering. I would guess that in the fiction of the film and in that moment in the 70s, and obviously the art market has exploded even more, but I would guess that each of those paintings was probably I don't know though, because the math doesn't really add up. Because he has to pay the guys that helped steal it, and then one of the other questions as a viewer we have is how is he going to make money on these paintings? How is he going to sell these things? Like they're and then they're in the it's in the newspaper that he stole these paintings too. Like it's in the newspaper right away that these paintings were stolen. So as a viewer, you're like, wait a minute, how is he going to get away with this now? Like, and so I don't know. I think in the fiction of the film, I would guess in 1970 that the paintings are each worth like thousands of dollars if I had to guess. Like I don't think those are supposed to be like you said Picasso. The movie doesn't really mention who that the artist is that he steals the paintings of, right?
Right.
But you look at them and they look okay. I mean, I don't think they're kind of like abstract. It's abstract art. Um but it does make you wonder if
Yeah, like I'd appreciate them if I saw them, but I wouldn't be like slinging fucking grand to buy
yeah,
them.
paying thousand, so you pay your the guys who help you do the heist, you pay them thousands of dollars, and then you have these stolen paintings which becomes a scandal that's in the newspaper. So how are you going to ditch them? How are you going to sell them? So very quickly in the movie you just kind of realize that this guy is like kind of out of his fucking mind. You're like this. And that's what's so funny too, and the movie gets its title from uh one of these detectives comes and sees them, and they're like, yeah, we it's pretty early on, I would say like 30 minutes in or like an hour in, after the heist happens, the cops are like, yeah, this guy got popped trying to rob a bank. Like this, I think it was the black dude that helped.
Yeah.
He tried to rob a bank, and then he said that the Josh O'Connor character was the mastermind of the plot.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful joke.
He's like, oh yeah, they said that you're the mastermind.
Yeah, and he's very
He's like, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
why you get that idea, fellas.
Oh, I don't know. My dad, he's a judge. He might have it out against him or something, man. He's got a really like in the best way possible, kind of just like this annoying persona and voice. Like I feel like we went to like college with someone like this. You know what I mean? Like when we're in college and someone's just like, oh yeah, yeah. They just don't do anything. They just kind of stand there in the corner. There's yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm not really interested in that stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't.
Yeah, he's like very soft spoken,
It's
which
like I don't
it
really like hippies, man. It's like, dude, what?
it really makes you wonder, who is this guy? Because he went to like architecture school, I think. I think he's like kind of an unemployed architect. And so how he gets the money from his mom is he lies that he needs to get supplies for a new job he got.
Yeah.
And she's just very skeptical about it. And then he's like, yeah, no, don't worry, mom, I'll get you the money back. But again, what makes the movie so fascinating is like, even as we're talking about it, I feel like the movie's going to be even better on a rewatch, just because I really don't know who this guy is. Like I have a hard time even explaining like what his motivations are. Like is he really trying to like get rich, or does he have an appreciation for art? Cuz at one point when he first steals the paintings, he like puts one of them up on his wall, and
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's true.
you're kind of just like, did he steal these because he thinks they're awesome and he kind of wants to own them? Or is he trying? Because I think he's trying to make money, but he doesn't really seem like that artistic. Like he's kind of like an architect, but when he's kind of walking through the museum, it's more just like something to do rather than this guy like is like super artistically minded. And it's so interesting too that the movie never really explains exactly his motivations, because then he's at dinner and his in-laws are like, yeah, who would even steal these paintings? Who gives a shit? Like his in-laws, without knowing that he's the thief, are talking about something that's just in the papers. And he like ends up kind of saying in the car driving his wife and kids, like, what does he say? He like says something where he's like annoyed that the in-laws didn't think that the paintings were worth being stolen or something, right?
I think he's kind of making fun of them in like disagreement because I remember him smiling in the car like, oh yeah, they thought. Yeah, I think he was just kind of smiling. I don't know. I could be wrong. That's how I remember it.
Yeah,
But
it's because it just there's so much about his reaction that is
and then
still kind of strange.
yeah,
Where
and then there's this whole thing when they're in the car after the dinner, and it's like, does the wife know about the like heist, or
yeah,
because he's kind of like hiding them in the basement, right, when they're going through planning.
yeah, I think at first, and then
But
he moves them to like some barn, which is also kind of a funny sequence where he kind of is just some. I heard a critic talk about that sequence that it's just so boring, like him
no,
like.
that's fuck them. No, I that's like the
Well, they
best
meant it
part
as
of the
in like
entire movie.
they meant it as in like a good way, like it's this same kind of
Oh,
it's this same kind of like anticlimactic tone where you're like, okay, he stole the paintings. Now we're just gonna watch him very monotonously like take these paintings up on a ladder and put them into this box on top of this like in this barn, you know?
yeah, it's kind of it reminded me of when things happen in scenes where it's like, oh, is this gonna happen? Like
Yeah.
is the ladder gonna snap? And it just never does, but he's still like it does fall.
Yeah, and
Or
so there's a moment of dramatic tension where you're like, "Oh, is something going to happen? Is he going to get stuck?" And then the scene just kind of ends where he just kind of jumps down from this high ledge, and then you see him just lying on the ground. And again, it's kind of poetic the way she has this kind of anticlimactic tone, this kind of like when you're watching things happen in this movie, it doesn't really feel like there's like subtext at work. It feels like everything is very straightforward, but it also has this kind of question lingering in the scenes where you're like, okay, but what is the point of this? Like either what is the guy's motivations? Is this movie trying to get me on the edge of my seat for like a heist movie? Is this like a thriller? And the answer is really isn't a thriller. It really is kind of just a character study, you know? And
mm,
then he gets back from the barn, like hiding the paintings, and that's when he runs into the detectives at his house, and his wife is just immediately like leaves him with the kids.
she's like, fuck you. Oh my god. She's so cold and
Yeah, they don't even really talk about it. She's just kind of like, "All right, I'm leaving," is kind of the vibe.
yeah. And she's yeah. I don't
No,
know.
and then
Thinking about Lana Haim when you say that, just kind of in my mind.
yeah, she has a very understated but great performance where again, it just feels like a different time. It's just like in an era where, you know, you have a family, you have two wives and a kid, and you have a nice little house. And then you're just like, you're literally an out of work and architect, and you just have this nice little like setup. And then you know, for no reason, you just decide to rob an art gallery and then everything. So I feel like the way the movie works is that it asks as an audience member, you don't know if you're supposed to be like on the edge of your seat. Is this gonna like is he gonna get away with it? Is he not gonna get away with it? And then as the movie progresses, you realize that no, this movie is just about this guy being like an idiot. Cause then he just everything falls apart. One of the guys that helps him do the heist rats him out and goes to prison, and then the other guy that helped him do the heist backstabs him, and then like the mafia shows up and they steal the paintings from him. So after all of this, he gets screwed over by another member of the heist and he doesn't have anything. So then he's like, all right, I'm just gonna leave town.
No, it's
So then
goofy.
he
You remember the guy's voice when he's in the car with
yeah,
them? It's really
yeah.
like weird. Like, you should have thought things through better. He's got like a really high pitched voice for some reason.
Yeah, there's this weird kind of like organized crime guy that's like, I forget how he sounded, but he had like a goofy ass voice, and he's like, "Yeah, is this your first time? Oh, you'll get better. You'll get better at it." He's like acting like this guy's life isn't over. So then you're just like, "What is this movie?" It's just kind of and again, the title is just very ironic because it's kind of about a failure. It's a guy who's between jobs, a guy who doesn't have a job, who decides to do a heist, who fails miserably doing the heist, And then he's just on the run. Then he just leaves his family. So his family goes and moves in with, I think their parent, I think Alana Haim's parents or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then he's on the run. So then he goes and he stays with an old college buddy and he's hanging out with this guy. And it's really funny. He's just kind of having breakfast with this guy. And this guy thinks it's like so cool that he like is in the papers, like as a wanted fugitive.
He's
He's
like,
like, oh,
yo.
that's cool.
Oh, and him and his wife they're like the most Midwest couple I've ever seen put on screen. He's got like
Yeah. And then,
sandals and it's like snowing outside and she's got like this weird like cardigan or something.
yeah, it's a
She's got
very
short
like,
hair and
yeah, it's a very much like a coffee and cigarettes kind of,
they're eating sandwiches.
yeah, feeling. And again, a movie that's about a heist, he's just sitting having kind of awkward catch up with college friends he hasn't seen because now he's imposing being a fugitive on them. And then the guy is like, "Oh, well, it's great to see you," type vibe. And then the wife later is like, "You got to leave. We don't want you here." And
Yeah,
so then he,
it's kind of that the vibe of, well, I mean, we care about you, but you're gonna take us down with you. We gotta like look out for ourselves.
yeah, but again, it's like this, like the tone of it is just like, what is this? Like, you're always asking yourself, what does the main character expect from others? What does he expect of himself? He doesn't really seem to have high expectations for anything. Like, he doesn't seem to be upset when they kick him out. He's appreciative, but there's a very kind of like, again, I use the word anticlimactic or like a casualness to, like,
Yeah.
he doesn't really seem to think one way about his freedom. He doesn't really seem to care if he even really, like, he does like want to get away with it, but it's okay. So I think the greater conversation about the movie is the fact that he doesn't seem to support uh like, because he has to go underground because he's committed this crime. And there's this really brilliant moment when his friend says, and I think this is hilarious. This just goes to show why this movie is going to be great on a rewatch. Is his friend tells him, "Listen, go to Canada, like leave the country."
I
Like
remember you
it's
telling me that.
He's like, "Leave the country. What are you doing?" And then he's just kind of like, and again, I'm even describing this in a higher stakes way. His friend says it again. I keep saying it as in casual. His friend's like, "Yeah, you should probably go to Canada. You won't be in the papers." And Josh O'Connor's just like, "Oh, no, I don't think so." It's like, what do you mean? Like, why do you want to stay? You're going to get caught if you stay in America. So his plan is to go to, I think, to Ohio, right?
Yeah, he ends up in like Cleveland, but not in. I think he ends up in Cleveland at the end.
Yeah, so he tries to go see his friends, and his reasoning for not going to Canada is his friend goes, "Oh yeah, I have a friend that lives out there," and he's like, "Oh, are those like leftists or something?" Josh O'Connor's like, and he's like, "Yeah, radical feminists, draft dodgers, pretty cool people." And it's like I think that's one of the lines in the movie that actually got kind of a laugh. Like, and that's the other thing about the movie is really funny, but it's not like a belly laugh kind of funny. It's a kind of like you laugh to yourself and you laugh about it afterwards, but it's not like there's a ton of laughs the whole movie. It's like all understated. It's all very quiet, and it's not really a movie that's trying to get big reactions. Like, you never really have a big reaction as you're watching it. And so then you're just thinking to yourself, damn, so you're not going to try to like have your freedom and go to Canada just because you don't want to be around like beatniks and artistic people and radical feminists, draft dodgers. So he goes to Cleveland, and very weirdly, he gets like this room and he discovers like a passport in the room, and he starts trying to forge a
Yeah.
passport. So then you're like, wow, is he just going to get away with it? When we get to that second half of the movie, when he's like trying to have a different life and he's wearing that suit, he has like that suit that he gets. That's like just in this room that someone had like left behind. I really started to fall in love with the movie because I liked it a lot the first half, but I was like, wow, this is actually very unique. The fact that this movie that's about a heist is now about a guy just like living a different life. And again, it's the same tone the whole movie, where there's not really any stakes. Like, it doesn't really, the movie isn't trying to get you to
Yeah.
care about if he gets caught or not. It's just kind of watching him living. And then you're like, okay, so now he's like almost out of money. And you realize that he so he goes to Cleveland to see some other college friends, and they've either gotten the tip off, like, don't talk to him or leave or something, because they're not there. And you don't know if that's because the other college friends told him that he was coming or what, or maybe that they just weren't there. So he's in Cleveland for no reason. And then it strikes him that he should have gone to Canada in the first place. So then he tries to get a ticket to Canada when he's in Cleveland. He doesn't have any fucking money.
Oh, that's when the film does get, after that, for me, a little bit, not in a bad way, just a little bit in a step towards disturbing. Where it's like, oh, this is fucked up. Oh no.
Yeah. So do you want to talk? Because I feel like I was like, wow, really stunned, smiling, and loved the ending. If you want to, because yeah, we're kind of deep in this, and I'm down to keep talking for another 5-10 minutes, but I gotta eat lunch. I think I'm getting pretty hungry.
Yeah,
But
drop the
yeah,
bomb.
but no, the best aspect of the movie is, again, so there's a lot of imagery in the film too, where you're seeing people have the TV on, and you'll see footage of Vietnam, and there will be protesters. Like, you see protesters in like the
Mm.
film, and there's like that tone is like there are people protesting the Vietnam War, and this guy who does this heist seems to not really have a care about anything, but he doesn't really seem to like the protesters. So there's this sequence where he should have gone to Canada in the first place. He doesn't go to Canada, goes to Cleveland. He's out of money, and that's kind of what sparks him going. And he's a thief, so he's at like breakfast, and he sees this old woman have just a shit ton of money in her wallet or in her purse, and he's like you can just kind of see that he's like about to rob this lady. So then the ending of the movie is essentially he follows this woman into an alleyway. And as a viewer, you're like, is this about to get really disturbing? Is he about to like kill this lady? Like, it gets dark, you know? Like, the movie doesn't really ever feel like it's that dark, but then
Yeah, like threatening, but
that's like the moment where you're like, is he about to kill her? Is he about to like beat her up? And
I
so
don't. Yeah.
he steals her purse, and
Oh,
she's like,
before that, it's even more awkward than that, because she like gets the vibe that she's being followed, then he kind of like backs off,
yeah.
and then doesn't he wait till she like gets to her door?
Yeah, and then he comes running up and grabs the
Yeah.
purse, and as he grabs the purse to get away, and this is what's, again, just a guy that just makes so many stupid decisions. He gets into this thing with the protesters because he's like, okay, this is how I blend in. I'll just go blend into a peace protest, or wanting to get out of the Vietnam War. So he gets into this huge protest, and I think, doesn't he drop the wallet or something? Or drop the
Yeah,
purse?
and then one of the protesters is like, "Oh, hey man, I got you," and gives him the purse, and then that dude that gave him the purse gets like bopped on the fucking head.
Yeah. So he takes the money, puts it in his pocket, drops the purse on the ground. Someone picks the purse up, goes, "Hey, you dropped this," and then a cop smashes this guy in the face with the fucking with like a cudgel, or with like one of those like police sticks. So that happens, and then all of a sudden he gets fucking arrested. Josh O'Connor gets arrested for being in the protests, and he goes, "This is a mistake. This is a mistake." And it's like really funny because he obviously wasn't actually a protester. He was trying to get away from stealing from an old lady, but they arrest him for protesting the Vietnam
Right.
War. So
It's
it's like,
such a weird thing that like to like think about like thematically, that he gets arrested with them for the wrong reason, but like what he did is arguably worse than what they did. It's yeah.
it's so funny. And so he's getting carried into this paddy wagon, and you're just like, no way. And the door gets closed on him, and you're like, oh my God, this is how the movie ends. And then there's
Did
just
you
this.
did you think right away that that's how it was going to end? Because I didn't think. I just thought my first thought was like, "Oh, this is a beautiful ending if she ends it right here." And then she did, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was shocked because the movie, there's so much like teasing about potential action, and the idea that like the heist would be exciting, because the heist is not exciting to watch. It's kind of just like a blue collar like comedic thing. And then him running away and trying to have a new identity. It's also just not, it's not like a James Bond movie, It's just kind of like a casual like character study, and a lot more of the movie is about the atmosphere and the background of this political moment with like the Vietnam War and protests and stuff, and people
Mhm.
hand and the movie is a lot more about people hand rolling cigarettes, drinking coffee, there's this, they're wearing this pin that says F on it, which I don't, was that, I think that was the gallery, like the Frankenhammer, Helmer or
Oh
something.
yeah.
They actually gave out pins at the screening I was at, so I have a pin that says F on it.
What?
Yeah, but yeah, they're wearing. Everyone wears these like little pins. So there's like an aesthetic to the movie that really seems to be about like the clothes and the period, and it's just a brilliant period piece. And then the greater comment ends up being, you know, how funny is it that this guy gets arrested at a protest, and the reason he's at the protest is because he's trying to like blend in with the crowd after stealing. So he gets thrown in the paddy wagon, the door is closed on him, and you go, oh shit, I guess we're gonna see how this all plays out now that he's arrested. And then I think the door is closed, the car drives away, and then it's these cops that doesn't someone like pick up like a hat or something and start dancing?
He kind of like I think he puts it on and kind of like spins his cape around kind of jokingly, and then he just fucking tosses it on the ground like it's not even a big deal.
Yeah, there's like this hilarious like ending of the movie where
It's
after
yeah,
John
it's like
O'Connor,
Laurel and Hardy shit. You know what I mean?
it's like the
Not in a
most,
bad way, just yeah.
yeah, it's the most random thing where you get these cops like kind of mocking like just stuff that the protesters had like either left behind or like fell on the ground. And it's just like this really funny little vignette where you see like these cops like openly being like obviously hating the protesters too. So it becomes kind of political comment. And then the movie ends and it's like so unexpected, like the way that you get to that ending, because the movie, there's so much absence of stuff going on, there's so much casualness, there's so much indifference. The film itself feels very indifferent um to the actions of this character, and the character himself doesn't seem to have a strong opinion on like the Vietnam War. He doesn't seem to have a strong opinion on art, even though he steals this art. It doesn't seem like he really cares about the art. And then he ends up, because he's a product of his time, he ends up going down in this situation. But I feel like what makes the ending so great is the fact that that protest sequence is very fast. The cutting is very fast. The violence is very fast and brutal. Like you're just not expecting the movie to get so violent out of nowhere. And also not for like you kind of think he's going to hurt the old lady, but instead he gets his ass kicked by police 2 minutes later. It's like it's very I think it's very cathartic, honestly, because the violence of the ending is just, it's not the violence you're expecting. It's not the violence he deserves, in the sense that he deserves he deserves to get beat up for stealing an old lady's money, right? That's why he deserves to get beat up. He doesn't deserve to get his ass kicked for protesting a war, you know? But then again, he's not actually protesting the war. So it's kind of like this cosmic joke in a way, where it's like kind of like his luck has finally run out and he finally gets what he deserves, is kind of in a
Mm.
way what the movie, it's kind of like this cosmic justice where it's like, okay, these protesters shouldn't be treated like this, is kind of the vibe I got. Like this is fucked up to beat up people who are justifiably, I mean, the Vietnam War is one of the greatest disasters in the history of America. Everyone that protested that war was on the right side of history. Everyone that said we shouldn't be in this war, everyone that said we're butchering innocent people and this is barbaric, they're right. Everyone that had a right wing argument who thought that we didn't really have any reason to be in it because this ended up not really being like worth it. This had nothing to do with, you know, communism at the end of the day. This seemed just kind of like a corrupt thing. And who even knows what the real reasons? I mean, some people say we were in Vietnam for like heroin production and stuff, but I think there's a lot of corrupt, insane stuff that was going on behind the scenes. And yeah, it's very fascinating to me that this movie ends up kind of making that comment that I don't know. And it really does raise the question about apathy in general, about either protesting or like a lot. When this movie came out in Cannes, a lot of the conversation was this movie seems to mirror today. This movie seems to have a comment about what does it mean to be politically apathetic. And I don't know if the movie is making a conclusion where it says this guy would be a good person if he was authentically at the protest. I don't think that's what it's saying. I think it's making kind of this dry comment that isn't it hilarious that this guy who really he's a loser, he's a bad person, he does immoral things, he looks down on protesters. Like he looks down on like radical feminists and stuff. And it really makes you wonder like what is this guy it's almost like apathy itself leads people into this dead end of living a bad life, I guess, you know. So I don't know, I wonder if the movie is making a comment on apathy in general is kind of where I get with it,
Mm.
because as we're having this conversation, I really would love to rewatch the film again. Another scene, we got to bring this up before we wrap up, was his phone call with Alana Haim, where he asks her to wire him money when he's on the
Oh
run.
yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of that scene?
Oh, it's kind of like the same vibe when in Raging Bull when he calls his brother.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting comparison.
It's just she says like I'm glad that you're okay, but I'm hanging up now.
Yeah, she's very cold to him, and she's like, she still just doesn't know what the hell is going on. Like you never get a conversation between them where she says, "Why did you do this?" Right? I don't think she ever
Yeah,
asks him. She's always just like ashamed and like angry, which is justifiable, but she doesn't say anything. So he's talking to her on the phone when he's in Cleveland before the ending. This is maybe like 10-20 minutes before the ending.
and he
And
just like I said before, he's just yelling at her like, "Can you just say something?
yeah, and
Like
I
you're
don't. I
just so
mean,
quiet."
even saying yelling is like a firm way to explain it because he's just very soft spoken, being like he's
Oh
like
yeah, right.
urging her. He's like urging her to talk, and the movie is so like passive aggressive. You can just tell that he just never has a direct conversation with his wife, like ever. And here he is on the phone, and she's just like not asking him really why he called and anything. It's just a lot of him being like, I did this for all of us.
Oh
But well,
yeah.
actually, and this is a line that I heard a critic brought up that again, one of the best lines in the movie. He says, I at least 1/4 of this I did for myself. Doesn't he say something like that? He says, I did
Yeah.
1/4 of this robbery was for myself. It's like the one moment in the movie where you're like, wait, why? Why though? Like, why though? Does it make you feel cool to pull off a robbery? Do you want the money? Are you just bored with life? Like, why though? And that's it's so present in that movie where you can see right through it, and you're like, you didn't do this for your family. What are you talking about? And then she just hangs up on him because he asks her for money. He's like out of money, and that's what causes him to try to rob the old lady. It's just that
Oh.
he's broke. And it just really makes you wonder, like, bro, why did you just it's such oh my god. Honestly, this conversation makes me want to rewatch the movie like immediately cuz it's very strange. I'm left with this ending of the movie doesn't have the movie puts the it off it wrong foots you as a viewer. It's hard to expect how it's going to go. It's hard to expect when you're going to get these eruptions of violence. Like the film flirts with violence happening, but you kind of feel distant from it. And then there's just this eruption of violence at a protest. And again, I don't know. I'm really fascinated by this character. I really am. And I'm really fascinated by what the film, like, what is the takeaway of this movie? Because it really does seem to be about political apathy, is almost how I would consider it. Or, but I don't know, maybe apathy in general, maybe just like the film is kind of an exploration about what if you make a movie about a character that doesn't care about anything and they do something that just disintegrates their life, like in front of your eyes. And then as his life is disintegrating, he kind of shrugs into being arrested. Instead of leaving for Canada right away, which is what he should have done when he had the money, he just hangs out in Cleveland for no reason. And then he has this suit, right? Like, which is on the poster, which is
Yeah.
also very interesting. That the film kind of feels like it's almost about clothes at time too. Like it really feels like the movie is about. Wait, what?
No, I said,
Because yeah, the poster, when you look at the poster of him in the suit, that's not his suit, right? Isn't that like a suit he found?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a I don't really know, like, if there's, like, Airbnb style in, like, the '70s, but I thought maybe it's, like, actually someone's, like, that, like, lives there already and they're just, like, renting out the house or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, because it's very
And he's
strange.
just,
And
like,
then there's a
he
passport. Like he finds someone's passport and he's trying to put his
Yeah.
face on someone's. And so you're watching this whole sequence at the end where you're like the second half of the movie where you're like, is he gonna get away with this? Is this movie just gonna be him like living like by himself, you know? And there's something so inexplicable, which again, I mean, honestly, in this moment, this kind of reminds me of like a Flannery O'Connor like short story where Flannery
Mm,
O'Connor, one of the all-time great writers, just a master short story writer. She would always have stories where you have a character that does things that cannot be explained. And the character will either disintegrate, die, or it goes in a direction. Like a character will do something and then the character goes in a direction and then the story is over. And a
mm,
lot of it about Flannery O'Connor is, to me, is about how inexplicable human behavior is and how confounding and contradictory. Like one of her great novels, I think it's the only novel she ever actually wrote, is Wise Blood, which is titanic masterpiece of a novel. And in that book, I think the main character, I'm butchering this, and obviously the episode we're doing is not about Flannery O'Connor, but the main character in Wise Blood, I think he says that he doesn't believe in Jesus or something like that, and then as the book goes on, he starts I think he starts like putting glass, like, or he puts rocks in his shoes to punish himself because he has a reverence for how Christ suffered. So in one way, this character is saying that Jesus is fake. I'm again, I might be butchering this, but it's something like that, right? Where he acts like Christianity is wrong, and then he's getting into debates with preachers and stuff, and then I think at other times he's trying to scam people into believing that he. It's something like that. I'm kind of butchering this. I might be wrong about some of the details, but the point I'm making is that the character acts in a contradictory manner. And it's strange. And it's strange. And the ending of Wise Blood, it goes in this direction where you think, wait a minute, is he actually like such a true believer that he wants to like hurt himself to feel the pain of Christ's suffering? Right? That's almost where I get with the Mastermind, where it really makes you, it wrong foots you in such a way where you just appreciate how strange human beings are. And I think that's,
mm.
I don't know, when I've watched a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts over the years, and I think obviously a great podcast. He's had a lot of epic conversations and stuff, but it does rub me the wrong way when he starts talking about like AI and machines and stuff. And he'll have this point he makes on the podcast where he goes, yeah, one day, what if we could all just read each other's minds? So he's like, what if we could read each other's minds? If everyone just knew each other's intentions. And I remember when he said, he says this all the time. And it really frustrates me because I'm of the camp when I think about how humans act. I don't think people have intentions. I mean, people have vague intentions. Like in the Mastermind, this guy, his intention is to steal the painting and then, or steal all these paintings. But then you ask why, and you ask why not from the standpoint of are you doing it for because obviously one of the answers could be for money, but the greater thing seems to be for a sense of adventure. It seems to just do something. It seems like the morass and the mundanity of life provokes this guy to do something. That seems like the why. But in the Joe Rogan universe of in a future where people can read each other's minds, I don't think there's any thoughts going through this guy's head. You know what I mean? Like I think if you could read Josh O'Connor's character's mind in this film, I think it's literally like empty. I think his brain is just like empty. I think he's literally like, oh yeah, we should steal these paintings. But then if you even asked him the deepest recesses of his brain, why? I don't think he would have an answer. And similar to like Flannery O'Connor, it seems like when you really push this guy, when you really push your appreciation of this character to the limit, he might actually have a very strong feeling about something, you know? And I don't know what that something is. It's very it's complex, but it seems like it's a yearning for a different life. It's a yearning for living another life is almost how I would that might be my conclusion to this conversation, that the desire to escape the casual boredom of having, again, a life that many people in 2025 would love to have, but can't do it, can't afford it, right? Having a wife and kids, having a house, having a yard. He doesn't really seem to like it. He seems to just rebel against that more than he's trying to make money off of selling the paintings, more than he loves art. It seems like it's a rejection of, I feel like he's just his like the arc this movie takes is this character kind of rejecting normalcy in a way. But yeah, like I said, with this Flannery O'Connor comparison, I almost think to myself, maybe like in a epilogue, or if there's like a continuation of this film, like what does he do in prison? Like what does his life look like once he's arrested? Imagine if he like got really like spiritual or something randomly, right? Like imagine him taking an even more radical, inexplicable like turn once he goes to prison. I almost feel like that's what the movie is kind of hinting at. Not like a religious thing, but I almost feel like he's going to have even more confounding behavior once he gets in prison is almost where my mind goes, I don't think he's going to be like the same guy. I think he might pivot again to just being a completely different guy because he doesn't seem to have a personality, It seems like he's just yearning for something. It's like kind of this malaise and this yearning for, I don't know. I don't even know if it's greatness. Like, cause the cops calling him the mastermind. I don't really know how that makes him feel. You know what I mean? Like, because yeah, obviously it's funny calling him the mastermind, especially when the plot is such a failure, and that implies that he like knows what he's doing. He has all these like plans that he's trying to execute, but I don't know if he has plans. I think he just has a reaction to trying to do something. It's like this notion that human beings, when they're confronted by kind of this stasis, they explode in ways that they themselves can't even anticipate. That human desire and human free will is something that is more of a reaction to the circumstances that you find yourself in rather than putting out, you know, I want to live my life like this. And then you put out like a whole, master plan of how your life is going to go. That's not really how it goes. You kind of just find yourself with 2 kids, not really living a life you want to live. You don't have a job, but you have a house, which is a lot more than people today can have. And then you just explode. You reject it, right? You reject how destiny has moved you through life. You get pushed into a place over the course of your life and you reject it. And that's almost my conclusion about the film, is it's almost kind of this testament to what free will is, which is not that you have a master plan. It's not like I was saying with Joe Rogan. It's not like you have all these hyper specific dreams of what you want to achieve. You just go about life and you're kind of pushed by forces that are greater than you. Similar to like the protesters, for instance, right? He's not trying to be in the protest. It's just he's swept up in it because he's confronted with needing money. He's confronted with needing to steal, and he's swept up in historical circumstances. And in an ontological way, to express his free will, to express his desire, he rejects a common life. He rejects it because he doesn't want to be swept up in this boring, living with a wife and kids. He just doesn't want it. He wants to have some authority. I think he does kind of want to get out of apathy, but it's hard to get out of it. So really the movie is kind of about the apathy of destiny, the mundanity of destiny, the anticlimactic feeling of not being in control of your life, of not having a master plan, of not being able to pick and choose how your life goes. You kind of are just put in these positions, and there are only really a few moments in someone's life that they can reject being put in this position. And a lot of times the angst of that explodes into crime, and we could have a larger conversation about, crime in general as potentially being this. But again, I don't know if that's how, I don't think I would take a sociological conclusion from all of this. Like, I don't think I would end up making the claim that every crime that's committed in this world is a rejection of apathy. But in the literary tradition of character study, of books and movies that are about a character and trying to understand what are the thoughts of the character, and then the movie or the book is about asking this bottomless question, what does this person think? Yeah, that is kind of my conclusion. The movie is almost a question about free will, is where I almost get with it.
Huh.
Well, I think we touched on everything. Man, honestly,
Good.
that's a great movie. I'm like really
Dude,
pumped.
right? It's
That's
fucking awesome.
I mean, we're just talking about like free will out of nowhere. Like, I did not. It's a very profound film. It's very profound.
I haven't seen anything like an ending like that in a long time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm good to wrap it up. So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We're gonna be back with Begonia, and so we're gonna do Begonia. We're gonna do a Shadow Ticket episode once two former guests of the podcast finish the new Pynchon. We're gonna do the new Pynchon book podcast, a podcast on the book. Then we're gonna do Ken Burns' American Revolution series. We're gonna do an episode on that when that drops. And so stay tuned. Thanks.
Bye.